Hey everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. I have a video today to share with you with the follow-on for the sausages. So I marinated the mince and put it in the fridge. Today's video shows you how I minced it all up and filled all the sausage casings and things like that. I think that's pretty much the whole video today, so enjoy that. It's a pretty long-winded process, but we find it worthwhile. Definitely something that we enjoy. We don't like sausages from like a supermarket, generally speaking. Don't like not knowing what's in them. A lot of them have dairy in them as well, so we really enjoy being able to make our own. It definitely makes sausages feel like a decadent meal rather than just a cheap meal when they're a fairly cheap meal. So enjoy that, and I will see you again in the next day or so. Thanks for watching. Today I had to work on the pork mince that I had marinated for the sausages. So the first thing I did was I had to mince them. So generally speaking, I'm not overly concerned about the mixing of flavours of my minces because it's only for us. But with the apple blend, I decided that I would mince that and then clean the mincer before mincing the other two flavours, just for a little limiting of flavour transfer there. I use my Kitchenaid for mincing the pork. Now the Kitchenaid, you can buy two different attachments. You can buy a plastic one or a stainless steel one. The plastic one really doesn't hold up to what I need, so I have the stainless steel one, and I actually bought a non-branded stainless steel one because it was cheaper. So I like this one. It works really well. I've had no problems with it at all. I lost a piece for it a while back and had to wait for a replacement, but other than that, it works well for me. It still has some limitations. The Kitchenaid will overheat if you do too much, and the batches that we do are fairly large. The mincer can only run at a certain speed or it struggles. You do have to cut the meat in the right size. You want the meat to be cold, all those sorts of things. But it does work, and it uses a lot less power than a standalone bench mincer. So bench mincers are generally quite high power draw, so I would probably have to use the generator while using it if I was going to, because our inverter is only 3 kVA. But it would be doable, but it's an outlay and then that sort of thing. Though it would probably only take me half an hour to mince all the mince if I was using a high-end mincer rather than the Kitchenaid. So the power usage overall would probably be similar. It's just that it's going to be drawing a whole lot more power at once than the Kitchenaid does. The Kitchenaid has a fairly low consistent draw, which means that my inverter copes okay with it. So for the moment we've been just dealing with using the Kitchenaid and knowing that in hot weather I have to give it significant breaks because it does overheat, and I just take all the mincer pieces off and stick them in the fridge while I'm waiting for it to cool down. But yeah, there's some limitations there. Not everyone would have that issue though, because not everyone would be mincing the quantity of meat that I am mincing. I got Sonnet to help. Well, she asked to help. The other limitation of the Kitchenaid mincer is that it's really high. It is pretty hard on the shoulders and the hands to push the meat in because of the height of it. So Sonnet needed a stool, but she wanted to help, so she did. The other thing to be aware of when you're mincing in the Kitchenaid, because of where it is, every now and again it hits air pockets or bits of the marinade, and it'll spit. So it spits out little bits of meat or little bits of marinade or little bits of fat, and it'll hit you in the chest because that's the height of the mincer. So I always am aware that the shirt that I'm wearing is definitely going to need to be washed once I'm done. So Sonnet helped out and we got all that done. We made a pause for stovetop popcorn because the kids requested it. So I just cook my popcorn in a pot on the stovetop with a bit of lard, and then we tend to serve it with some bacon seasoning. This is the Delicio brand of bacon seasoning, and we really, really like it. It's a vegan one, so there's no dairy products in the powder. I have yet to be able to replicate it, so if anyone has any ideas on replicating this one, that would be great because we really enjoy it. Once you've minced the mince up, you need to emulsify it slightly. So I use the larger grind on my grinder, partly because the Kitchenaid works better with it, but partly because we like it in that heavier grind. But you do need to emulsify the mince, otherwise if you fill the sausage casings, then when you cut them open, they're going to crumble into like mince rather than be a sausage. I forgot to do it on the last batch, and it was very noticeable that when you cut the sausages open, it's like having mince encased in sausage casings instead of sausages. So all I do is I put it into the Kitchenaid bowl with the paddle on, and I just run it, and it's probably only 60 seconds at most, and I start off with the half bowl and then add a couple more handfuls in as I'm going, and then at the end I use my hands to squeeze it a bit. It doesn't have to be excessively emulsified. You just want the proteins to break that little bit so that it's more of a sausage mince than a mince, and it works really well. They tend to feel like sausages when you eat them in that way, which is what we're going for, of course. The casings I use are hog casings from the Casing Boutique. I think I will probably get the thinner ones next time. These are the thinnest hog casings, so that you go down to sheep casings, and they always say hog casings are best for beginners because they're a little bit tougher. Sheep casings are a little bit more fragile. So I think I've done it enough now that I'd be okay with the sheep casings, and I buy these salted, so they just get stored in the fridge, which means that when you want to use them, you need to soak them for a minimum of 2 hours, but overnight is good, and then you run water through them to rinse the salt off before you feed them onto the chute. Then when you feed them, when they're done, all you do is you feed them onto the sausage chute, and yes, there are jokes made every time we do this, so that it's all there so that you can fill them. So we have an upright sausage stuffer, a stainless steel one. It's nice and easy to clean, nice and easy to store, and the hopper is supposed to hold about 5 kilos of meat. We've never found that particularly accurate, but it holds a significant amount. We did use the sausage stuffer on the Kitchenaid, but because of the height of it, it was really awkward for being able to support the sausages and everything as you're going, and the person who was pushing the meat in had to have their arm up there as well. So this upright one works really well, and it's really, really quick. So you feed all the casings onto the chute, and then you fill the hopper. So we did that. Now the filling is a 2-person job in this one, because you have to crank the hopper down, you have to crank the meat out. So I always have to grab Darryl to help me with this one, because you need to support the casings while they're being filled. I found the best way to support it is you support the casing on the stainless steel chute. You want to have some pressure there to allow the sausage to come out a little bit slower. So you're holding the chute back a little bit, so that holding the casings back a little bit so that the chute can fill the sausage casings. The thinner the sausage casings, obviously that's not such an issue. These are quite thick casings, so you need to have the pressure in there, because if you don't have the casings filled, then they're going to be bubbly and airy. So some tension on the stainless steel as they're filling is what I find the best. Once you've got them all in the casings, I then knot the end of the casing and twist all the links. So I knot at the end so that when I'm adjusting the meat within the casing, nothing is going any further out the end. And then once I do that, I twist it into links. Now, I'm not particularly pedantic about the sizing of this. I'm sure that surprises you considering how much I weigh everything else. But this is a little difficult to be pedantic about. So I just go by sort of the width of my hand, I suppose, like the forefinger width is where I twist it. So you have to twist it in opposing directions. So the first one you might twist away from you, and then when you get to the next one you have to twist it towards you. If you're constantly twisting it in the same direction, you're going to be untwisting the one behind you. So you have to make sure to twist it away from you, then towards you, then away from you, then towards you. So opposing directions for each twist, and as you're doing it, move the meat around so that you've got your full skins. If you end up with a little bit of a gap between two, it'll dry out and you can snip it off, and that's no problem. But you want the casings to be fairly full. If they're not full, then the casings will bubble and there'll be air pockets in it, and when you cook them they can burst, which means the sausages burst, which sort of defeats the purpose of sausages. So you move it around, cut any excess. They have to go into the fridge for at least 24 hours for those wet casings to sort of dry out and suction to the meat. So we put them on a rack in the fridge so that they have airflow around them. It'd be better if we had a little bit more space between the sausages, but we have limited space, so we do what we can do. And then for that 24 hours-ish, the airflow around them dries the skins, and the skins sort of suction to the sausages. Once they've done that, you can have a look over them and see if there's any air bubbles, and you can pop them. You can buy a specific, like a sausage pricker, but a needle works fine too. We're not normally too overly concerned about it, but they dry and sort of the casings sort of cure a bit to the sausage so that they're all nice and firm, and then you can pierce the bubbles if you want. So these were all done and ready for the fridge, and then I will show you in the next video what they look like when I pull them out to portion them up. So we tend to portion them into single meals and then vacuum seal them and store them in the freezer, so we can just pull them out the night before for dinner the next day. It seems to work well for us. I didn't count the sausages, so I'm not sure how many meals we'll get out of this, but it's worth the effort, though I do think that getting slightly thinner sausage casings will be better for us, because I think it will stretch the portioning out a little bit, because these are quite large. There's quite a lot of meat in each sausage, which is possibly unnecessary depending on what it's being served with. So I think I will definitely go for some thinner casings in the next batch. So that was today. Thank you very much for watching, and I will bring you back tomorrow or the next day, and I'll show you what they look like when I put them away. I still haven't done that chat video yet, so I'm still planning on doing that and updating you on a few things. And we got a timber delivery, so we're getting further work on the chicken pen done, all sorts of things. So I will share it again. So thank you very much for watching.